back to another episode of the Deals for Dentists podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. And through these podcast episodes, I'll be interviewing dental professionals and companies, and I aim to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And be sure to check out my latest book, Stress-Free Dental Implants, Re-Energize Your Career with Implants, and my first book, The Stress-Free Dentist, Overcome Burnout and Start Loving Dentistry Again. And they can both be found on Amazon or thestressfreedentist.com. And today we're joined by Dr. Stephanie Stoddard. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Eric.
Now, Dr. Stephanie Stoddard became a dentist to make a visible change in the lives of others because she didn't have dental care growing up in Jamaica. One of her greatest joys in practicing has been providing dental care to thousands of children in underserved communities. Dr. Stoddard leverages her healthcare MBA and Lean Six Sigma certification to make her offices more successful. She constantly negotiates for better employment terms for her team members and seeks to build the kind of vibrant environment that everyone feels at home in. Dr. Stoddard is also a wife and a full-time mom of 3 wild boys, ages 5 and under, and she understands the working parent juggle and is on a mission to help people fight for the balance they need and deserve. She enjoys spending time with her family outdoors and traveling, and a family goal is to travel to a new country every year. Wow, that is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with, I just wanted to hear your journey and how you got into dentistry.
Oh, that's a long one. So as you mentioned, I'm originally from Jamaica. I knew at 4 I wanted to be a doctor, and within the British system back home, you either became a doctor or a lawyer. That's the path that you took. So I told my mom, I was like, I wanted to be a doctor, then I wanted to be a dentist, then I wanted to be a dancer, then I wanted to be a teacher. Then of course, as most 4-year-olds are, we change our minds every single day. But the long and short of it is when I got to high school, I had a natural talent for science and math and for working with people. So naturally, I went down the path for science, and that led me to chemistry, math, biology. And my dad figured out that Jamaica was not going to be the place for me to continue my career. He encouraged me to go to school here in the US. So when I was 17, I moved here, got a full scholarship to Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts. And that's where my journey began. Massachusetts. So as an international student, I had lots of struggles being in more like financial, because I had to have a sponsor and all this other stuff. But needless to say, I figured it out and I got into all my dental schools. And I chose UConn, and actually UConn chose me because I felt like when I made that decision to go back into medicine, so I went and I got an engineering degree from BU. I like the combination of working with my hands, just like the tinkering of things that I do get from being a dentist, and the intersection of medicine and dentistry. That was something that really appealed to me, and UConn's program like satisfied all of my boxes in that regard. I got to dissect cadavers from head to toe. I knew about the human body much more than I knew about teeth for the first 2 years. So I always joke, the first half of my degree, Doctor of Dental Medicine, it was more of my MD because I felt like more of a medical doctor. And then the last half, we earned it 3rd and 4th year. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
And now, are you still in Connecticut, or do you practice in Connecticut and live there?
Yes, I do practice and live in Connecticut. So my heart for the underserved communities, actually in Jamaica, I didn't even know there was a thing of like, I guess racism here. I guess I knew it, but not really felt it. Because at home, our motto is out of many one people. We're colonized by the Brits. We have, I have white uncles, I have Chinese cousins. So for me, the combination was never something that was huge. It wasn't like a big deal because I saw people of multiple nationalities within my own sphere. When I got to the US, that was the biggest shocker for me, that there was like black, whites, and it was just so pronounced. I'm like, what? This is unreal. But anyways, so that's where my heart for the underserved came out, because it just like people like me. I just wanted to serve people like myself, to make sure they had access to care. I always thought about if I were to go to a healthcare provider and they couldn't really connect with me in a certain way, it could affect the healthcare that I got. And that's why I became an advocate for being in these communities. So that's not without sacrifice, because with typically within those communities, there is the system and the Medicaid system. It's set up such that yeah, you do have to do more. You do have to see more patients. So I think that's part of what contributed a bit to my burnout. It was always a high pace environment. So I knew I was helping so many people and it felt good, but at some point I felt tired, just felt like, okay, well, what's really my mission here? Like, it's great to be able to provide care, but it hit me at one point. I was pregnant. My patient was pregnant at the same time. And it's a good starting point. Like, oh my gosh, you're pregnant. What are you do? And it didn't even occur. I couldn't even talk. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, you've been waiting for an hour. I have this 4-year-old to help. And I just felt like something has to change. I gotta do something. I gotta change. So yeah, here we are.
So I just wanted to back up a bit.
Yeah.
So do you practice, or did you practice in a community health
Yeah.
setting?
Yep. In a community health setting in Massachusetts, mainly Massachusetts. So I've been out for about 9-10 years. Most of my practice has been within underserved communities. Yep.
But you're currently in more of like a
More like
private.
a private practice, semi-private practice. I mean, we are owned by a corporation as well too. So, I do try to fill that need by being out there in the communities, encouraging kids within those communities that there are many options for them, because a lot of times those environments are riddled with drugs or crime or whatever it is. They haven't had that example. So I try to be that example for them within the community. Yeah.
And now, so would you consider yourself part of corporate dentistry, like a DSO? Is that the type of model that you're in?
Yeah, it's the type of model that I'm in right now. Yep. Yep.
And for any of the dentists listening out there, there's a lot of people coming out of school that are interested in this type of corporate DSO
Hmm.
worlds. Can you just kind of give like some pluses and minuses about the DSO world?
Yes. So there are different types of DSO environments. The one that I was previously in was strictly for Medicaid practices. The one that I'm in currently, it has more of a private practice feel. Um, yeah. So the perks of being in a DSO, you do have a full schedule. You don't have to worry about marketing. You do have that support from an organization that pours into like the billing and all the other stuff that comes with being a dentist. The negative of that is that you're not really your own boss. As much as you'd like to believe that you're your own boss, you're not really your own boss. So I think for work lifestyle balance, you do have a little bit more flexibility in that regard, but it also depends on what you want, and that's what I'm coming to realize. So I think private practice does offer a lot of benefits in terms of flexibility, but you do have the headaches of managing the business. So that's something you'd want to weigh as well. In corporate environments, the patient load is a little bit heavier, so you do get to build your speed a lot faster. You do get to get your confidence up a lot faster, because a lot of times, I remember in my first practice, I was literally one of 4, but I wasn't able to talk to the others, or they were so busy. So I had to figure it out on my own, which was good, because you do build the confidence that you need in order to see and treat patients effectively and with care, So that was one good thing. And then the other thing, health insurance, like that was a big deal for me. I am the primary breadwinner for my family. So most of the jobs that I've had, health insurance has always been an important piece for me. So always had to have a health insurance. So those are naturally the practices that I gravitated more towards. So yeah.
That's great info. And now you mentioned burnout.
Yep.
Was it because of the high pace of the high volume situation that you were in when you were in Massachusetts? Were you just, putting too much pressure on yourself? What would you say actually is burnout, and how did you know you were in it, and what caused it?
Okay. Very good questions. I'm still discovering that. So burnout, I just hosted a summit called Band Burnout Summit, and what it was a 21-day experience for healthcare professionals. I mean, moms, dads. I just made it as open as possible because I can experience burnout as a healthcare provider, but my husband could experience burnout as a parent, or it was just a lot. And I think the pandemic, as there was a light from the pandemic. It allowed us to be more vocal. And that's what I truly appreciated from the pandemic. It allowed us to slow down in such a way that we were able to tune into our desires and tune into who we are. And I think with burnout, when I think of burnout, not only does it come with exhaustion, but it really does come with not knowing or being aligned with your vision for your life. So my vision is to serve underserved communities, is to be that influence for them, that possibility of that hope of what is possible, So that is like my truest connection. I think with the high-paced environment, it got a little clouded. And the fact that I was, pregnant, a mom, I have all this other stuff going out. So maybe I didn't have my boundaries that I needed to have checked, giving away too much of my freedom. Okay, yes, I can do this. Yes, I could do that, but without truly thinking about what the cost would be. So I think now that I'm on the other side of burnout, I'm actually more busy, but it's more in a fulfilling way because I know what buckets need to be full in order for me to be my truest self. So you see entrepreneurs and you're like, wait, how are they doing this, and how they're not fizzing out? It's because they've tapped into what truly makes them themselves, and they're going with it. When you're not in alignment with whatever you're doing, you can feel the tension with inside, and that tension manifests itself as pain, maybe avoidance, maybe extra stress because you're just not where you need to be. So I think my biggest lesson from being burnt out and knowing that I was burnt out was I wasn't really being true to who I am. So, yeah.
It almost seems like this has become part of your mission. You had the summit,
Mhm.
which can you explain more about the summit? And is there another one coming up?
Yeah. So the summit was just I reached out. It was a challenge for my coach. So I've been coached. I knew that I tapped into myself through coaching. That's one way in which you can see the roadblocks that are in your way. A lot of times we get in our own way. So we have these big visions and maybe life gets in the way for us. Other things get in the way for us. And I felt like working with a coach, I don't even remember how she came into my life, but literally it came at the right time. So the universe looks out for you too. And she helped me to tap back into who I am. And as part of my journey, the challenge was to speak about it, like make it more normal. I know you do the same, like you've come out too since the pandemic, and you've made such great strides with sharing the struggles that us dentists face within practice. And that was one of the blessings of the pandemic, so that here am I saw there was a need for more to share, and I felt that the summit did provide the opportunity for me to do that and to connect with people. That's something that I was missing for such a long time. So I organized it across different disciplines. So I had like a mindfulness instructor, I had meditation, like all the things that truly make us us. So, we have to take care of our spiritual well-being or bodies. So I tried to tap into all those different pieces so people could get a flavor as to how to heal themselves too. So there's more to come. I'm still learning about the process, and self-care was a big thing. So we'll see what's around the corner, but I'm reaching out to authors, I'm reaching out to influencers, just those who really, really want to make a difference for others as well too. So, yeah.
And this is an actual, it's all virtual, correct?
Yeah, it was all virtual. So we recorded the conversation. So kind of like how we're doing today, we had set up some times, and they just talk about their experience with burnout and what they found that helped them to overcome it. and then they shared that with the audience, and the audience was able to reach back out in touch with them if they wanted to learn more about some of the strategies that they suggested. Yeah.
And this was actually 3 weeks, correct?
Yeah,
It was a 21-day summit.
It was 21-day summit. So I guess going forward, with our engagements, we live in such a fast-paced environment. We want information at our fingertips right away. So I think 21 days, even though 21 days is like the magic number for forming new habits, I think maybe something a little shorter, just so we can get more engagement and get the word out faster. Because I found that with the summit, people tended to tail off towards the end. So maybe doing something a little shorter next time would be helpful.
So I wanted to just wrap things up.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just wrap things up with Dr. Stoddard, who has given us so many great gems. Dr. Stoddard, what would you say? This is a two-part question. So how do we get a hold of you, number one? And number two, if you had advice for a young dental professional or a young entrepreneur, what would that be?
Know your vision for your life. Really spend time tapping into your feelings. I feel that our feelings and our thoughts, like, they help us to remember who you are. I think for such a long time, I just kept stifling myself because I was in the busyness of the day. When you do get in touch with your feelings, you're connected at the core, and then your core and your heart will lead you to where you need to be next. So the vision for your life, just being very, very clear about that, and knowing that it's okay to say no, because every time you do say yes to somebody else, you're saying no to yourself. And then that part of you just withers away. And then the light that's really, really waiting to come out, it just gets darker and darker because you've turned it off for yourself. So vision and clarity are like my biggest things. And one thing that I learned through my summit, I had this mindfulness instructor. She gave me a challenge of doing a 20-minute quiet sit-in. Have you heard of that before?
No, I
So
haven't.
literally, you put a timer on for 20 minutes, you go into a room, no distractions whatsoever, and you just sit and you feel, and you're like, wow, you feel what comes up and what comes up to the surface, and you experience it in its entirety. And that was one of the really cool things about my summit, because I went across disciplines. I was able to get that little nugget that has changed my life yet again. So I've been practicing quiet sit-in, and it's been a game changer, because I'm feeling my feelings, and they feel great. And I feel what it really feels like to be sad and to be happy. And it's life-changing. So that's one thing I would encourage us to incorporate into a restorative practice as well too.
Especially when you have 3 wild boys in the house. You need that 20 minutes by yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when I have 3 wild boys at home. So the easiest way for you to get in touch with me, I am on LinkedIn. And then, over the next couple months, I'll be starting another summit. So that will be out on blast as well too. But for now, LinkedIn is where it is.
Awesome. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us, and so many great gems. Let's be in touch.
Definitely. Thank you for having me here.